All right. Hello, Shivani.
Hey,
This
Michael,
is
how are you?
I'm doing good. This is going to be our interview for your case study. Um, so you wanted to do inner child work specifically, right? Um, Dealing from stuff from your childhood, and tell us a little bit about that, what it was like, and whatever you're willing to share, and why you wanted to do that work.
Yeah, so I kind of started this sort of journey kind of unintentionally a few years ago. And then when I met you and we were talking about your healing work, I definitely wanted to focus on inner child things because I just realized so many layers were there that I was just kind of trying to peel away as an adult now. And what really hit me was when I had my kids, I found that a lot of this childhood trauma started to resurface. And so that's kind of why I wanted to focus on that work. Why was it so difficult? Just growing up, like my parents didn't always see eye to eye. So we kind of always felt like we're walking on eggshells. They get into arguments all the time, screaming matches, you name it. And so we, like me, my siblings, we witnessed a lot. And I think growing up, I internalized a lot of it just because I didn't feel like I could like really talk to my parents about my emotions. They weren't really emotionally available all the time. So, a lot of layers, a lot of like trying to deal with self-worth issues too that came from, you know, just I don't know what it is, just specifically with money, even I always felt like if I didn't have money in my bank account that had something to say about my self-worth. I don't know where I made that connection, but I think it's somewhere in childhood I made that connection. And so that's kind of haunted me throughout my adult years too. Just a little example. So yeah, I really wanted to kind of focus on that kind of work because I felt like I had come into contact with some other people working on inner child work, like Susan and some other people that I coaches. And the biggest thing that I learned was that in the first few years, you kind of like have this self programming going on where you let everything inside. So my programming as a child, I felt like that definitely needed some work as an adult to kind of go back. And so that's when I had learned like, your first 7 years are so influential. I thought, oh my God, there was a lot of trauma. We got to go back and work on this. And so that's kind of why I wanted to focus on inner child work.
Yeah. And when we did your first mantra test and we saw your results, it did show that, but it also showed a little testament to you having already done a lot of the work yourself because your scores weren't too bad, not as bad as some other people's. Um, your sacral was actually the lowest, as I recall, and that made sense since you were focusing on your first seven and the sacral's tied to the next 7 years, give or take. Um,
Yeah,
and then we started that journey, and we did a little bit of root, and then we focused on the sacral for, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before we moved on to the solar plexus. Um, but yours was a bit different because you were now realizing that you were an empath, similar to my
yes,
own story where I didn't know for all that time, and so you didn't have that guidance. So we focused a little more on teaching you techniques you can do for yourself
that's
while
right.
doing the inner work, to help cleanse, protect, trust your intuition, and all of that. How have those been helping you?
Yeah, actually, good point. You're right. And initially, when we started, we were focused. You heard what I had to say, where I thought I wanted to focus on, which was the inner child. But as we in our session, you kind of pointed out that I think it's more of like the teen years and like early adolescent that we need to like that phase in your life that we need to work on. And I hadn't even like gotten there yet in my process. So I was like, oh yeah, there's definitely trauma there too, but oh yeah, that's right. There's so many changes. It just didn't hit me. And I thought that that was really nice that because of the mantra trust, because you have this process in place, you were able to kind of narrow it down because I didn't even know. And then when we did the work on realizing, oh, I'm an empath and I'm taking on energy that isn't mine, I think that's where we really found um, a really great place to focus. And so, yeah, that was how has it been helpful? It's I think that just kind of being aware that that's where those scores were low, whereas I thought they might be lower at the root, the child inner child stuff. So that was just it was just good to have that awareness and then continue that journey of doing the work. So,
And then the techniques that we practice themselves, right? The cleansing technique, the
yeah,
bubbling
the
technique.
bubble technique. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a big game changer for me because it gave me the ability to um, kind of be able to ground myself and show myself that I can protect myself with the energy that's within myself. That was a huge breakthrough for me because I'm always growing up, I'm always looking for things outside of me, and I know that I can go within and I can do some meditation or do this and get to that place, but it's just harder and harder to convince yourself sometimes when you're falling back on those negative thought patterns. So doing those techniques, like especially the bubble technique, where you taught me to, say a simple mantra, which is, you know, um, I am protected from all negativity. I can protect myself from all negativity, and having that kind of understanding that it's within me and it's my power, that was a huge breakthrough. Um, yeah, for sure. And just help me a little bit let go of other people's energy that way to know that it's not mine to take. That was a big breakthrough too.
Right. What's been your favorite part of the whole journey?
Oh, I think just like I love how you're able to I could see the improvement like week after week, where you'd show me the results of the mantra test and we kind of go through, where I was in terms of my scores, just to see overall from how far I've come as we started in the last month or so, as we started to see the scores really rise up. That was a huge kind of like celebration for me. It was kind of, like a little reward to say, you're doing the work, you're on the right path. I think that was my favorite part, but also when you would go actually do the healing work and using the ruins and that kind of the language, even though I didn't understand it, I didn't need to understand it. It just felt so good. It just felt like I love going into that trance and experiencing another frequency, like I'm not in the same time and space, and just letting that in, that for me has been so like my favorite part. I always tell you because you always ask me like, how are you feeling now? I'm like, amazing. Like I could go take a 2 hour nap right now. Like I get sleepy, but um I think that you explained like once you get into that kind of um mindset when you're in a trance or you're in a kind of like a deep meditation, you're allowing more of it into your subconscious. And so for me, I think that's been the biggest change. The actual work
Yeah.
that you're doing to help me unblock some of those emotions.
Right. So speaking of your test scores, we're going to go and give people, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
We're going to we're going to let people see just the basic graph setup. Won't go into
Okay.
all the full details, but so they can see what we're talking about there, right? So
Yeah.
I have this mantra test that is 49 different mantras because the chakra system is much more complicated than just the seven core chakras. There's so many more, and that energy does blend in a more complicated system. So I have this test that you take every week to help track your progress, right? And you can see the dates. July 3rd, that's when we started. And those were your scores, which were not too bad. And
Hmm.
that gap percentage, that's the gap between the lowest score and the highest score. And our goal is to tighten that gap so that you're more balanced and overall in a good place. And that first week, your average scores were 88% on the core level and 88% on the overall. But your gap in the core level was much bigger than overall, and that speaks to the things that you went through in your childhood. Because that was the week we did do the root, and then week two was where we focused on the sacral for the first time, and we did actually have an expanse in the gap. Um, because it did come down, and that does happen sometimes. But as you see, the second week or the third week, second week of the sacral that we did, we got you where we wanted, almost wanted to be. We got you in a better spot there, right? Look at that jump.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it was just like up and up from there.
Up and up with a little bits of dips back down, right? If you recall, it was actually thanks to you we learned the importance of taking the test at the right time in the right space.
Yes, that's right. I do remember that because I think one of the
Yeah.
weeks I took it at work and my scores were lower, like
Yes, that was
unusually
week
lower.
5. Yep, and I actually have a version of that I saved
Oh,
as an
nice.
example. Yes. So week 5, you had took the scores during your lunch break at work,
Yes.
right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, you have it documented there. Yeah, I did.
Yep. Yeah, I have the notes because I love this example of why it's important that we take the test from a safe space while we're
Hmm.
relaxed in a good spot. Because that's what we want to see where we want to see the data. Because we
Hmm.
know, and this highlights it, that at different points of the day, your energy is going to be in different places because of what's going on. And clearly, being at work, even though you were on lunch break, you're influenced by that high paced uh, environment that's very stressful. And especially back then, while you were still somewhat new, even
Hmm.
more stressful for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then that second test we took together right before we did the healing work. And
Right.
that's more along the lines of what we want to see. And that was the data I kept for your main file. And
Gotcha.
then, of course, when we took it right after a session, look at that huge jump.
Big, big jump. Yeah, it's
So,
amazing.
very amazing. We're very proud of you, how far you've come.
Thank you.
And, oh, I didn't, I gotta I gotta share again because I didn't even meant to go back to your main file.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
No, main file. Your main file, so we can highlight where you are right now, right? Because we're actually week 11. That test was you took the test, what, Sunday night?
Yeah, and I think that was the best score yet.
Yeah, Sunday. And those are your best scores yet, definitely, right? Look at all the 99%, 96, and your lowest score was a 94% on the overall. I love that.
And then the gap percentage has gone down so much. Like there's not such a huge
Yes.
gap, which has been,
Yeah. 4% on your core, 6% overall. It doesn't get a lot better than that. And then, of course, these are the visuals of
yeah,
how,
this is what I love the most because you could really see it.
yeah, and you see it all coming together. And, some people do take a little bit longer, and that's why I'm offering that guarantee of, the program is 9 weeks.
Okay.
But my guarantee is we don't stop until we get you where you need to be.
That makes sense. Yeah. So if it's going to take a little bit longer, that's just part of the process. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like this does guarantee that people get that healing and they
Right.
get to that space of it's going to stick, it's going to last. But some things are, because everybody's different and everybody's traumas and whatever they're going through and healing is different. One of the other testimonial clients that I'll be doing an interview with is he had some very serious traumas, and we spent 3 weeks on his or 4 weeks on his root chakra alone because it was
Wow.
all from that early childhood before we finally broke through and got him to that good space.
Yeah.
Um, so it does vary. Everybody is a little different. Um, but yours has been a wonderful journey. It's even helped me learn a few things, right?
Awesome.
Um, I appreciate it very much. Getting to work with you. For anybody watching this video, what would you advise them in terms of if they're hanging on the fence to do
Oh,
this work?
right. I would tell them to go for it. Like just take a chance because, we don't always work on ourselves, in this kind of society that we're in. It's always, outside of ourselves, but to really take that time and to work with someone like you who's doing that healing work. Like I didn't even know a lot about my chakras and all that, but just like I've learned so much from the work that you've been doing. And the fact that, anyone who's skeptical about this, you have a process in place where you can measure week by week, like we just showed in the video right now, of your progress or lack of progress. I mean, there's if you need to have an improvement, it tells you where you need to, make those improvements. So I think that if you're on the fence, take a chance, give it a try. You just try a couple of sessions, because you really don't know what kind of work you're doing until you experience it firsthand. It's kind of hard to explain in words the work that you're doing because it's such a high level. And I just noticed the change with me. I'm not saying that I don't have my bad days. I do, but having like a technique like the bubble technique or having these sessions like that I honestly look forward to because I noticed such a big change. You'll feel a big change. And the fact that you're doing the mantra test, you're doing a test every week, you can see and you can actually notice your progress where we're not always aware of like where we're at, So, and you learn so much about yourself. If anything, you learn so much. Like I didn't realize that the childhood trauma wasn't that big of a significance as the later years, like early teens getting into the teens. I didn't even realize, but we figured that out together with the mantra test. So, if you're on the fence, take a chance. Trust me, like this is life changing. I am not the same person. And I just feel like the journey is continuing and I'm just attracting more and more of what I want in my life that I've always wanted. But I feel like I'm allowing more to come into my life because of the work. I think we talked about this in our session yesterday. You can't allow it to come in if you don't have the capacity or the space mentally, or you know what I mean? So when we've done the healing work in the beginning, I wasn't able to allow a lot of it in because I needed the healing work. I needed that transformation to happen within. And now as the scores are higher and we've done that work, I feel that change that I can allow so much more in. And I think that has been really significant. So if you're on the fence, give it a shot. What do you have to lose? Right? Like you don't look where you are now in your life. And if you have an opportunity to better yourself, to, cleanse yourself internally, I mean, there's nothing better that you could do for yourself and your loved ones because it's changed my relationships too. So that's what I would say if you're on the fence. Give it a shot. What do you have to lose?
Now that's new to me. You haven't told me about that. How's it helped the relationship?
I think that there's part of me that just can kind of, well, with being an empath and understanding that, and just understanding that, I might be taking on the energy of my kids, when they're having a tantrum. I'm not saying I figured that out yet. I'm just saying that, it's a trigger when I hear, my kids, having a tantrum, and then it's like being able to respond as opposed to react. Like I just feel like I'm able to kind of catch myself before I have a tantrum. And trust me, it's not always like that. Like I had a tantrum last night and it was like, did you really have a healing session today? Because you can't tell. And you have those days and you have those moments too. But I think just being able to kind of come back to like a neutral space, I don't think you can do that if you're not meditating and if you're not doing that work. So I am noticing that I can be like at times more patient with the little ones or even with my husband. So that's where I've noticed the change. And I think that's coming from the healing and it's coming from within. Um,
Right.
it's subtle, so it's hard to really document it, but
Right.
you know,
Well, and it comes back to a little bit of what we were talking about yesterday in relation to the bubble technique, where um, it's not that you don't need the protection,
right.
it's that you don't feel the need for the protection
Yeah,
after.
that's right. That was a good like kind of distinction to make because initially I was looking at it as like so black and white like that. Like I don't need it. Not that I don't need it. I just I don't feel the need that I have to have that protection because of the work we've done. Whereas in the beginning, I might be a little bit more anxious and feel like I need that. And I think that
Right.
the anxiety is still there. I'm still kind of working through that, but it's like I'm kind of getting settled in. I started a new job, so the anxiety was really high, and not feeling like I could find
And
my
there's
connection. So
there's always going to be those things that happen, which is why I made that distinction, because there's always something you need to protect against.
yeah,
And there's always something that's going to happen that's out of your control. But
yeah,
this process gives you the healing, it gives you the tools and the education to know how to control yourself and how to come
exactly.
back from that and rebound and be protected. Or, if it does get through, to cleanse it out and come back that much more quickly than you would have done before. Like
Yeah,
in my past, where I was suffering from depression, and I would go into depressed states for weeks where, I wouldn't take showers for days. I would just hide from everybody, no social activity, anything like that. And it would last for weeks before I'd finally snap out of it and have a good spell again. Now, like that still will hit me and those feelings still come back. But with my own journey, my own healing, it doesn't last but maybe an hour or so or a day at worst. And, I snap myself back out of it that much more quickly because of these techniques and these skills and that healing work that I've done.
right,
So
right.
anxiety will still happen, but it's not going to control you because now you can
Yes,
control yourself and you can work through it that much more quickly and get on with your life and enjoy it.
exactly. And just kind of valuing this kind of work, like valuing giving myself the time to work on myself or valuing the meditation, because I feel like that's what I go into like a meditative state when you're doing that healing work, like the hardcore healing work. And just kind of being aware of that and telling myself, well, I need more of that in my life. Like I need more of that. Some people will take a nice hot shower to kind of calm down and relax. I feel like the meditation is something that I really need more of in my life. And so I was even kind of telling myself that last night, like I need to incorporate more of this meditative work because it works. It, it's helped me tremendously. And specifically the work that you've been doing, the healing work, I've never come across anything like that. It's so unique. And I think that it's going to change a lot of people's lives. I'm so excited for you. Like, I really think a lot of people are going to benefit from the work you're doing because it works. It's incredible. There's a specific techniques that are there, a process. It's measurable, which is amazing. You found a way to measure it, and you're doing it on yourself too. I think you should mention that. That's pretty cool.
Yes. Yep. That was a message from spirit for myself to do it on myself.
Yeah,
Even though I've been in such a good space,
yeah,
it doesn't hurt to keep doing it, right? And there's,
yeah.
like we just spoke about, there's always those things that do happen and come back. Uh, and I think for me, it's because I'm in that transition where I'm still working my corporate job while
Hmm.
I'm building this up, and I'm in this startup phase right now. So I've had that little bit of unbalanced stress of no real time off because I'm doing the corporate job or I'm working on growing this and finding that balance. That's where I needed to do that work for myself.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
to I needed to also see for myself firsthand, once I started seeing the process working for you guys, I wanted to see how it's going to work for myself as well because, I grew the process over the last 5 years, working for myself, working for my pets, working for a few very close friends privately. But it wasn't the refined process that I've been working on with you guys. It was growing and developing over time. So it was a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and there was no real structure until I started up with you guys in the case study group. Um, so I wanted to also experience that myself, and I love it, and it's amazing, like you said.
yeah. No, it's incredible that you can do it on yourself, and that it's because now you figured out this process. You've done that work, and you're sharing it with the world. Like, I don't even understand some of the things. Like I was saying, I don't even understand what you're saying sometimes, but I can feel it, and I know it's safe, and I know that it's good for me. Like I don't feel, oh, what is that? What is he saying? I don't understand. I don't get into that. I just accept it. That has been the biggest kind of thing for me. Because normally I would question everything and be like, oh, and not to say you shouldn't question it. Absolutely. But I'm just saying I might get distracted and be like, oh, what does that mean? And I just kind of, I think in the beginning I might have, like maybe the first session, but once at that second, third session, I just let it in. It felt so good. It's like I don't need to know. I don't even need to know what you're saying or what it means because I can feel how good it makes me feel. I can feel the difference. And so um that has been mind blowing for me. That has been such a game changer for me that like I can feel the magic, I want to say.
I appreciate that so much. Do you have anything you want to add? Last comments before we go?
Just to give it a try, honestly. If you're not sure about it, just give it a shot, right? If you don't like it, if it's not for you, you can walk away. But what if this is for you? What if this is something that's going to help you? Wouldn't you want to take that chance? Wouldn't you want to, help yourself improve and just feel better about yourself? Because that's like I was on the fence about doing it. I was like, oh, I don't know if I should go for this. Am I going to have time? I was starting to make excuses for myself. But then I said, hello, like when are you going to have an opportunity like this? This is such a unique process. And I was just so intrigued and curious about it. So I think that, you're so good about giving the information. So if anybody's out there who isn't sure about this, just, Michael's so amazing about giving you the details, you know. And I just went for it and I'm so happy and I'm so grateful to you that I did that because I've come such a long way as we've seen. So thank you so, so much. And if you're on the fence, go for it. Try it out. You just never know. For me, it's been amazing, incredible, life changing. So that's what I wanted to end with saying. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day, okay?
You too. Thank you.